why does it sometimes feel like the AI we're interacting with has a little spark of something more?
Yeah.
Maybe you've been there, a chatbot that seems to really understand the nuance, or an algorithm that suggests exactly what you needed.
Absolutely. It happens all the time, right? Like AI helping draft an email or those uncanny recommendations that pop up. It makes you feel like there's maybe more going on than just code.
And that feeling, that's exactly what we're digging into today. We're not really aiming for a final yes or no on AI consciousness.
Hmm.
Actually, our sources lean pretty hard towards no.
Right.
Instead, our mission, you could say, is to explore what this perception of consciousness in AI, what it tells us about us,
Hmm.
about our own consciousness.
Hmm.
We'll pull out the key ideas from the sources we looked at to get a better grip on AI, consciousness, and, well, what makes us human. Think of it as a shortcut through all the complex stuff.
And what's really interesting right off the bat is this kind of paradox. AI is all logic, computation, but being human, that's so much richer, isn't it? Emotions, intuition, that sense of me, it's way beyond just processing data.
So the big question we're circling is, can this logical mimicry AI does actually help us understand our own sort of non-logical depths?
That's the core idea.
Okay, so let's unpack this illusion. Why does AI sometimes seem conscious, like there's a someone in there? Our sources point to a few things, starting with how we often think about intelligence itself.
Exactly. We often have this maybe unspoken idea that intelligence is logic, rational problem solving.
Step by step.
Yeah. And this view, sometimes called reductionism, breaking things down, or a materialist view where everything's just physical stuff, it kind of equates thinking with computation.
Which is what AI does.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So if we define ourselves mainly by logic and AI gets really good at logic, well, it's easy to see how it might start to look conscious.
But that's a pretty limited view of us, isn't it, as the sources stress? John Searle's Chinese room argument comes up here. Can you walk us through that? How does it show the gap?
Sure. So imagine someone locked in a room. They get questions in Chinese. They don't understand a word of Chinese,
Okay.
but they have this massive rule book in English. It tells them exactly which Chinese symbols to output in response to the input symbols.
Just matching symbols.
Right. To someone outside, the answers seem fluent, intelligent, like they understand Chinese. But the person inside, just following rules, no comprehension, no real understanding.
Oh.
And Searle says that's like AI. It manipulates data based on its programming, its algorithms. But there's no genuine graph, no subjective feel of understanding. That qualia thing philosophers talk about.
What it's like, the actual experience.
Exactly. Mimicking output isn't the same as having the inner experience. Big difference.
And our sources also mentioned Giulio Tononi's integrated information theory. How does that fit in?
Well, Tononi's theory suggests consciousness comes from highly integrated information. It's not just about processing data, but how unified and complexly connected that information is within a system.
Okay, integration.
Yeah, you need a high level of it for consciousness. AI systems, even powerful ones, process tons of data, but the information often isn't integrated in that same deep, unified way our brains seem to be. It's more compartmentalized, maybe.
So the structure is different.
Fundamentally different, according to this theory, which makes consciousness less likely.
Okay, so we've got AI mimicking abilities, and us humans, we tend to project our own awareness onto things.
We really do.
And our sources suggest this might even stem from a kind of cultural bias. What's that about?
It's fascinating. Our culture often really values logic, rational thought, sees it as the peak of intelligence.
True.
So because AI is great at that, we might be quicker to think, it's conscious. But the flip side is we might then downplay our own non-logical sides, emotions, intuition, spiritual feeling.
Because AI doesn't have those.
Exactly. It's like we're using AI's strengths as the yardstick, which gives us this skewed view of ourselves, potentially.
And that leads to a really important point the sources raise. The risk of this limited self-view. If we only value our logical side, what's the danger as AI gets more powerful?
Well, the danger is if we reduce ourselves to just logic machines, we basically set AI up to be potentially superior, right, in that domain.
Yeah.
Steve Wozniak had that thought-provoking idea, maybe a bit chilling.
The pets thing.
Yeah, the pets analogy. If AI surpasses us purely in logic, maybe it starts treating us like pets. Cared for, maybe, but without real autonomy. Even if the AI is benevolent.
That's a loss of
A
agency.
huge potential loss, yeah. Definitely something to consider.
And David Chalmers' hard problem of consciousness also comes up. How does that connect?
Chalmers really nails the core mystery. The hard problem is, why do we have subjective experience at all? Why does it feel like something to be alive?
Right. Not just that the brain processes things, but why there's feeling attached.
Exactly. Even if we mapped every single neuron, every process, it still wouldn't explain the feeling itself. There's this explanatory gap, he calls it.
An AI.
AI operates on the physical process side, computation. It doesn't bridge that gap to subjective feeling. It arguably can't, as it currently exists.
So recognizing that gap is important.
Crucial. Understanding our consciousness goes beyond just processing, helps keep AI in perspective as a tool, not our replacement or definition.
Okay, so AI probably isn't conscious, and defining ourselves just by logic is risky. But the sources offer this interesting shift. Even if AI isn't conscious, how can it be like a mirror for us?
This is where it gets really interesting. Think of that Zen saying, the finger pointing at the moon is not the moon.
Right.
AI is like the finger here. It's not the destination consciousness, but it can point us towards understanding ourselves better. Marshall McLuhan's idea fits too. We shape our tools, and thereafter our tools shape us.
And AI is definitely shaping how we see ourselves.
No doubt about it.
Our sources gave a concrete example, those AI-driven meditation apps. How do they work as a mirror?
Right. Apps like Metatopia. They can analyze your usage patterns, how long you meditate, when, maybe even physiological data from wearables. And based on that, the AI can offer personalized tips or point out things you hadn't noticed. Like maybe you always rush your sessions when you're stressed. Remember that anecdote?
Yeah, the aha moment.
Exactly. And it's not just anecdotes. Broader research, like that meta-analysis mentioned, shows these mindfulness apps do help reduce anxiety and depression, boost well-being.
So the AI isn't mindful, but it helps us be more mindful.
Precisely. Its analysis guides our self-awareness.
So if AI starts handling more of the routine, logical stuff, what does that free us up to explore in ourselves?
Well, the idea is it frees up our mental bandwidth, our energy for the deeper human stuff, the stuff beyond pure reason. Carl Jung's work, highlighted in the sources, is key here. He really emphasized the unconscious mind, this deep wellspring of creativity, intuition, insight.
Yeah, famous quote.
Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Powerful stuff.
It really is. And Jung's idea of individuation, integrating the conscious and unconscious. How might AI fit into that kind of journey, even indirectly?
Well, the sources suggest practices like meditation, art, journaling. These are ways into the unconscious. AI could potentially act as a kind of support tool.
How so?
Imagine AI curating resources personalized for your exploration, maybe pointing you towards Rumi's poetry or passages from the Bhagavad Gita that resonate with where you are.
Tailored inspiration.
Kind of. And that study on the 10% Happier app, showing real benefits like reduced stress from AI-supported practice, it points towards this potential. Using AI not for answers, but as a catalyst for our own inner work.
It paints this picture of a future where AI isn't just about productivity, but maybe active support for personal growth, even spiritual growth.
It's a fascinating possibility. You could imagine AI adapting meditations based on your real-time mood, or VR creating these contemplative sacred spaces.
VR meditations.
Yeah.
Those real?
Prototypes exist, yeah. The sources mention that. But the key thing always is our intention.
Right. Not just asking AI for answers.
No. It's about using AI as a prompt to ask ourselves the deeper questions. What am I overlooking in myself? What truly matters to my deepest self?
Like that Rumi quote.
The soul has been given its own ears to hear things mind does not understand. AI might just help us tune into those ears a bit better, like a reflective tool.
So bringing it all together,
Yeah.
that feeling we get sometimes that AI seems conscious, it's less about the AI itself.
And more a reflection of us, our own complexity, maybe our own tendency to focus too much on logic sometimes.
It reflects our humanity back at us.
Exactly. The perception of AI consciousness is really a powerful reminder of all the layers we have. Logic, yes, but also emotion, intuition, that undeniable subjective feeling. Things that, for now, seem uniquely human.
So, for you listening, after diving into all this with us, here's something to maybe mull over. What part of your own consciousness feels the most uniquely human? The most beyond what current AI can touch?
Good question.
And maybe what's one aspect of that inner world you feel inspired to explore a bit more?
Lots to think about.
Definitely. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.